for those that are not familiar, and I'm going to go ahead and assume you all are, but maybe there's like 5 people who've never heard this. We got Operation Northwoods. Look at this. It's so true. Yeah. Even Wikipedia has it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a proposed false flag operation that originated within the U.S. Department of Defense in the United States government in 1962. The proposals called for CIA operatives to both stage and commit acts of terrorism against American military and civilian targets and then blame them on the Cuban government. Use this as a justification for war against Cuba. The possibilities detailed in the document included the remote control of civilian aircraft, which would be secretly repainted as U.S. Air Force planes, a fabricated shoot down of U.S. Air Force fighter jets off the coast of Cuba, the possible assassination of Cuban immigrants, sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas, blowing up a U.S. ship, and orchestrating terrorism in U.S. cities. The proposals were rejected by President John F. Kennedy. How could this have gotten unclassified?
Okay, a lot of things get unclassified because the people doing the declassification are plebes who just work in that department. When they created the FOIA Act, the reason it was a nightmare was because the bigwigs didn't want to have to go through every goddamn file that was in there. So they just redacted the shit out of stuff, and the underlings had to deal with the government agencies that were requesting the files.
I just want to, point out as it pertains to Northwoods, this is the CIA and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, this is DOD, the highest levels, proposing blowing up our own ships and planes and blaming foreign governments to get us into war. I'd also like to stress the Gulf of Tonkin incident, famously, was a false flag operation. And I think it was only in, 2010? Or it was only like 15, 20 years ago, they actually admitted it. So when I was younger, the conversation on the Gulf of Tonkin was considered conspiracy theory and you were nuts. And then at some point, it was like, no, actually, yeah, we faked that.
And that's LBJ, by the way.
Right. Interesting. To get U.S. involvement in Vietnam.
Well, let's just back up. I mean, JFK signs National Security Action Memo 263 in November of 1963, and that's for the reduction of the amount of troops that were already in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Once he's assassinated, while he's lying in state in the rotunda downstairs, LBJ signs National Security Action Memo 273 and says to the generals in front of him, you want your war, here's your effing war. And he gives them Southeast Asia as a proxy war, as a booby prize. They wanted to go to war with the Soviet Union. Wow. They wanted to use Oswald as a patsy, not to frame an innocent man. The framing of Oswald is because he had worked for us as a defector. They wanted to entrap the Soviets and launch a thermonuclear war against the Soviets and blame them for the assassination of John F. Kennedy. That was the original plan. That's why they faked Oswald going down to the Soviet embassy in Mexico City in September of 1963, Tim. That was David Atlee Phillips' plan.
So the CIA has done a whole bunch of messed up stuff in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s.
Don't forget the 50s and the late
2010s. There's been no reforms. No one's been held accountable, but...
Well, keep in mind that the Church Committee in 1977 did hold them accountable, and there was quite a bit of pushback, and they were back on their heels.
What was the accountability, though? I mean, I know a lot was exposed, but did anybody go to prison?
No. No.
What was the accountability?
Although...
Well, at least their budget, got nipped, and they were kicked back.
I don't believe it.
Set down a little bit.
I don't believe their budget got nipped. The Pentagon can't pass an audit. The Fed can't pass an audit. Somebody's funneling money somewhere.
Well, they had to go to drug operations. They funded it through black.
Richard Helms, the director of the CIA, was found guilty of perjury, and he was convicted of perjury for lying to the Congressional Committee.
Wow.
So there was something.
I think what we've seen over the past several years, not to jump too far into the future with Trump, I'll tell you one of the craziest things I've seen in my lifetime. When Eric Ciaramella blew the whistle, quote unquote, against Donald Trump in his first term, alleging that he made untoward or illegal actions pertaining to Ukraine. If you went on YouTube or Facebook and said the name of a CIA operative, Eric Ciaramella, YouTube would delete your video.
Wow. Take
your stream down.
Wow.
Facebook would delete the post without notice.
Wow.
Famously, Rand Paul was on the floor of the Senate and completely unrelated to the whistleblowing, he made reference to CIA agent, Eric Ciaramella, agent or whatever his position was. YouTube deleted the C-SPAN video.
Wow.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.